Imagine flying through the air at over 100 miles per hour, feeling invincible, until suddenly you're not. What you're about to hear isn't fiction. It's the true story of Dwayne Weston, one of the world's best extreme athletes, and the 3.5 seconds that changed everything. But before we get to what happened on that bridge in Colorado, you need to understand why even the greatest athletes in the world aren't safe from the one mistake they never see coming. October 5, 2003. The Royal Gorge in Colorado. Dwayne Weston stood at the edge of a cliff, wearing a wingsuit that would turn his body into a human aircraft. He was the 2002 World Base Champion, a man who had jumped off buildings, cliffs, and towers hundreds of times. But this jump was different. This time, he was going to fly over the Royal Gorge Bridge while his friend Jeb Corliss flew under it. One would make history. The other would become it. The cameras were rolling. The crowd was watching. And Dwayne had no idea he had less than 4 minutes to live. The Royal Gorge Bridge sits 955 feet above the Arkansas River, one of the highest suspension bridges in the entire world. For the inaugural Go Fast Games, organizers wanted something spectacular, something that would put extreme sports on the map. So they designed a stunt that seemed impossible: 2 wingsuit flyers, one over the bridge, one under it, passing each other mid-flight. Here's what makes this terrifying. When you're flying in a wingsuit, you're not just falling, you're gliding at speeds between 100 and 120 miles per hour. At that speed, you're covering nearly 180 feet every single second. You have milliseconds to make decisions. And there's no pause button, no second chance, no do-over. Dwayne knew this. He'd trained for this. But what he didn't know was that physics doesn't care about your resume. Now, here's where it gets chilling. Witnesses said Dwayne's trajectory looked perfect for the first 2 seconds. He was on course. He was flying beautifully. And then, stay with me, because what happened next is exactly why this became the most talked about death in extreme sports history. Dwayne launched himself off the cliff at terminal velocity, the speed where gravity stops accelerating you and air resistance takes over. For 3 seconds, he was doing what he'd done hundreds of times before, flying like a bird, feeling the rush that only a handful of people on Earth have ever experienced. But then came the miscalculation. At 100 plus miles per hour, Dwayne was approaching the bridge. Maybe it was wind. Maybe it was a split-second adjustment that went wrong. Maybe it was simply being 2 feet lower than he needed to be. We'll never know exactly what went through his mind in that final instant. What we do know is this: Dwayne Weston collided with the bridge railing at full speed. The impact was catastrophic. The railing severed one of his legs completely, just ripped it from his body. But here's the part that makes this even more tragic: his parachute deployed after the collision. That means for a brief moment, there might have been hope. The parachute opened. He was descending. But 300 feet below, jagged rocks waited. And when Dwayne hit the ground, massive blood loss from his severed leg meant he had minutes at most. He bled to death at the scene while his friend Jeb Corliss only watched in horror. Now, you might think this is just about one tragic accident. But here's what's truly disturbing: Dwayne's death is part of a pattern that's been killing elite athletes for decades. And the worst part? The better you get at these sports, the more danger you're actually in. Let me show you what I mean. 3 years before Dwayne died, there was Gernot Reinstadler. He was 20 years old, one of Austria's most promising downhill skiers. During a qualifying run at Wengen, Switzerland, Reinstadler was flying down the Lauberhorn course when he lost control in the final S-curve. His ski caught in the safety netting. Now, here's the irony that'll make your blood run cold: the safety equipment designed to save him became the weapon that killed him. When his ski snagged that course netting at high speed, it created a violent twisting force that shattered his pelvis, caused massive internal bleeding, and nearly amputated his right leg. Doctors worked for 6 hours. They gave him blood transfusions. They did everything humanly possible. Gernot died that night. Then there's Ulrike Maier, a 2-time world champion, multiple World Cup winner, an Austrian superstar. On January 29, 1994, she was racing downhill at Garmisch-Partenkirchen in Germany. Live television cameras captured everything. She was traveling at 65 miles per hour when her right ski caught an edge in soft snow. The crash broke her neck instantly. She was airlifted to a hospital but died shortly after arrival. Thousands attended her funeral. Her daughter was left without a mother. And the skiing world had to confront an uncomfortable truth: no amount of skill can protect you when physics decides it's your turn. But it's not just winter sports and wingsuit flying. Let me tell you about Butch Laswell. March 10, 1996. Mesquite, Nevada. Butch was one of the most experienced motorcycle stunt performers in America, a man who'd made his living defying death. That day, he was attempting to jump over a 38-foot pedestrian bridge on a Honda CR500. The crowd was massive. The cameras were rolling. Butch accelerated down the ramp at top speed. Then the wind hit. Crosswinds pushed him off course mid-air. Instead of landing on the ramp like he'd done 100 times before, Butch flatlined on concrete from 65 feet in the air. His trachea was crushed. His skull fractured. His chest collapsed inward. He died during transport to the hospital, and the video of his crash became a grim reminder that even decades of experience mean nothing against the laws of physics. Before Butch, there was Robin Wintersmith in 1979. A man about to attempt something no one thought possible. 30 Rolls-Royce cars. 1 motorcycle. 1 chance. The crowd at Elstree, England, fell silent as he revved the engine, every eye glued to the ramp. Robin was a master of his craft, fearless, precise, a daredevil who had defied death countless times. But on that day, something went wrong. Just a fraction of a second too slow, a tiny miscalculation, and he came up short. The bike slammed into the cars, hurling him through the air. Silence turned to horror. Emergency crews rushed in, but it was too late. Robin died instantly. One man, one impossible jump, and in a heartbeat, it became the chilling reminder that in extreme stunts, skill and courage are sometimes not enough. Because physics doesn't care how brave you are. So what's the thread connecting all these deaths? What's the lesson buried in these tragedies? It's this: in extreme sports, there's a paradox that nobody talks about. The better you get, the closer you push to the edge. The more successful you become, the more ambitious your attempts. And eventually, you push just any inch too far. Dwayne Weston didn't die because he was reckless, he died because he was at the absolute pinnacle of his sport. The same is true for Gernot, for Ulrike, for Butch, for Robin.